Hi guys! So I thought we'd start by going over some vocabulary words that I'm going to be using during class to make sure that you understand what I'm talking about when I say things like base and exponent. So first of all, this whole chapter, all of chapter 7, is all about exponents and what to do with them in a math problem. So let's talk about what an exponent is. So an exponent is a number that tells you how many times to multiply a number by itself. So you don't actually use that number in your math. It's more like counting how many of the things that you should have. When we're writing an exponent, we write it small and above our base number. So this was the reason why we used the letter B on our activity that we were doing today in class, was because we called the big number, or the normal size number, the base. And so base starts with B, so that's why we were using the letter B. So the normal size number is called the base, and then the small number that's written above is called the exponent. And again, if you have 4 to the power of 3, that does not mean 4 times 3. That means you need to write the number 4 3 times, and then you would multiply those together. You can do that in your head, or you can use a calculator. If you're using the calculator, you can either type it in as 4 times 4 times 4, or there is a button that allows you to do exponents that are not squares. We call it the caret button. On calculators like the Texas Instrument ones, let me grab mine really quick. This one right here, it has the one that looks like an arrow. It's right here. It's above the x squared button. Or if you have a different type of calculator, some of the other types of calculators will have y to the x instead. Then you would just hit 4, y to the x 3, or you would hit 4 caret 3. I'd also like to talk to you about the importance of parentheses, because it will actually change what sign your answer is. So if you want to take a number and make it a negative number, you need to surround it with parentheses and put everything else on the outside of the parentheses. For instance, negative 4 squared is not the same as negative 4 squared. By putting the negative 4 inside of parentheses, I am now doing negative 4 times negative 4. In the first example, I'm not doing negative 4 times negative 4. That negative sign actually says like negative 1 times 4 squared. In this one, I'm actually doing negative 4 times negative 4. And actually, if you type it into your calculator using these two different formats, you will get different answers. So the first one will turn out to a negative 16, and the second one will turn out to a positive 16. So parentheses do matter, and it does matter when you're typing it into your calculator if you put parentheses around a number or if you leave them off. In general, if you have a negative number and there are no parentheses around it, then your answer will be negative. Okay? If you have a negative number with parentheses and your exponent is an even number, then your answer will turn into a positive, much like this negative 4 squared on the right-hand side did, right? So negative 4 times negative 4, the two negatives cancel, and you get a positive 16. But if you have a negative number with an odd exponent, even if it has parentheses around it, it's still going to be a negative answer. And the reason is that when you have 3 negatives, or 5 or 7, or any odd amount of negatives, 2 of them will cancel, and you're always going to have one left over that changes your answer to negative. So here's an example of that. Negative 3 to the third is negative times negative times negative, and the first 2 will cancel, but the third one will make your answer negative. So it is really important that you get the sign correct on your answer. This concludes our first video.